it found us.
This is the drawing that I've been working on. And been working on it in my on my iPad.
Hi, Mark.
And I've also been working on this one. Which they're vector, if anybody knows anything about digital. How we sounding? We sounding all right?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Hello, everybody. I'm Max Castley, owner and operator beatnik extraordinaire. What?
Take that off of the screen.
No, I'm talking.
Okay.
Everything's fine.
Beatnik extraordinaire.
Yeah.
I like it.
Laziest person at City Museum. This is my wife with me, Maria Castley.
Oh. Hello.
We got Samson and Audrey here. We've been doing this for a couple weeks now. So, why?
She's so cute. That's what she thinks.
I've been reorganizing a video that is 53 minutes long
Hi, Melissa.
of all the things in City Museum that, this is music plus other people, other things. Yeah, something. We have a name. And, so I've been, recutting this video because the person who shot it for whatever they were using it for made the timeline not in order, but very
You wanted a chronological order.
I wanted a chronological.
After viewing, he's like, chronological order makes more sense. So, I think some of this footage we've shown before, but some of it's new, and yeah, you said you added a soundtrack to it?
I added a little bit of soundtrack to it, but I took it out a little bit because it was I have to do a little bit of editing on the sound. So this is rough cut. Yeah.
Hi, Tim.
You see? Creating City Museum. Now there's a typo in here.
There is a typo.
Yeah, and I sort of fixed it, possibly. But,
what might that typo be?
They spelled my last name wrong. There's 2 L's.
Which?
It's your last name, too.
I've totally done that before.
On your own last name?
Not on my last name. On other people's last names
You
recently. But, yeah. So, it happens, but yeah, it is kind of funny. But yeah, do you want to show the video?
Yeah, we'll hit play. We'll make sure that the audio is working. Looks like it is.
Woo. Hi, Steph.
Well, I guess our theory was, like when we started out with the front of the space,
So that's
we're going to be very
right
conservative
wing
and use like traditional materials like granite and stone. And
I want to keep
sort of
watching.
let some
If you
of
don't,
our,
sign off and don't watch anymore.
Well, I guess our theory was, like when we started out with the front of the space, we're going to be very conservative and use like traditional materials like granite and stone, and we're going to make everything very formal. And as we proceed deeper into the place, we'll sort of let some of our this is go wild a little bit. I think of this place kind of like Stravinsky symphony, like Patushka or something. So it's got a sense of balance by balancing opposites. Like, you get balance like walking down railroad tracks by like jumping from track to track, and the balance lies in the middle. So we were going to try and make this thing where we put all these opposites shouldn't work together, but by contrasting all these different forms, we form this sort of a dissonant symphony in here. And so then this got to, okay, we're being adult and formal in the front, and then we'll, go back and recess ourselves into childhood and dreams and things that we just want to do to play. We started about 2.5 years ago. We started and stopped. We actually worked on other projects, so it started out to be kind of like a WPA project for the crew. And it sort of, got out of control from there. So about the last 6 months we've been getting serious about getting it done, because we can no longer afford to have it be our private kind of playground.
Probably I should have known that something like this would happen the day my husband said there's this really neat building and we really need to buy it, and it's a chance in a lifetime, and I've waited all my life for something like this, and he dragged me over here, and I wasn't that impressed with the first part I saw. Then he took me to the back building where City Museum's located, opened the door to one of the 60,000 square foot floors that was simply a vacant space filled with gigantic columns and pretty clean concrete floor and nothing else but light pouring in it and nothing else there. And I looked at the space and I fell in love, and he knew I would. And so, of course, I said yes, sign on the dotted line. And although that wasn't the beginning of City Museum, it was the beginning of my knowing that somewhere in that space at some point in time he was probably going to do something very unusual and very unique.
Well, actually, well, I don't think we'll ever get that one down. It's right. Well, maybe.
So you want half inch off both of these then?
Well, yeah, just kind of put it right in the middle of that bar. By the time you do that, it'll be just right.
So you don't want to burn this off then?
So let's just ignore that. So what we do now is drop.
I like to get this tanker. Here it comes. Here it comes.
I walked up to the third floor of the building, and I noticed one of the large windows was gone. It was just gone. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. The window's gone. And I turned around and saw this monstrous collection of these just gigantic, dirty, big, oily hunks of machinery. And I don't think I screamed, I sort of just gasped, because this was the area we supposedly were cleaning up. So I found out that these things were parts of this world's largest windmill that was made by NASA back in the 70s, I believe. A friend of ours, Dean Pruitt, because this windmill was not serving their needs or functioning properly, he went down and procured the rights to take this windmill down. He and Bob are friends, cohorts in crime, shall we say, and they decided that this, in fact, would be a phenomenal thing to reconstruct in some way, shape, or form at City Museum, and to be kind of the guts of this great mechanical wonder world that they were going to put together, which I still don't know what it would look like. But and again, it's one of those things where I say, well, what are we going to do with this? And Bob says, well, it's free. And not only is it free, it's here. It's in the building. So I kind of, throw up my hands in despair and go on to the next thing. We no sooner started building out exhibits like caves and bowhead whales and things for children that the next thing I knew, Bob was saying, well, let's put up some architectural facades for entranceways and over doorways, and let's just use these cool materials, which are stored and salvaged and great quality materials, and let's incorporate them into the building of this children's museum. And I said, well, sure, cool, that's neat. And we have a very good friend, Bruce Jerry from After the Paint, who's collected architectural salvage and sold and warehoused it for decades. So they have a great brotherly relationship, and we started talking about it and decided that we should maybe make this architectural thing a real big scale component about this museum. So thus we started to say, well, gee, if we do that, maybe it really isn't just a children's museum anymore. So we extended the concept of who this museum was for, was basically to reach out to everybody, that there'd be something for everybody, from say 1 to 100. And as we've worked over the last 18 months, we've erected any number of architectural facades throughout the whole 3-floor area. And we're documenting the history of that, and basically just bringing life back to these things. And that's taken on a very significant role in the museum. And as well, to the point that there's also 5,000 square feet designated as the St. Louis Architectural Museum, where we have small-scale exhibits of primarily St. Louis architectural memorabilia, as well as other things.
Why is it so unique?
It's unique because it's recycled, because it came from something else. It's all been recreated, and this old warehouse where shoes used to be manufactured and people have left the city, now all this new stuff is happening, and all this old stuff has been brought back in and recreated into new things, which makes it delightful for every age, for everybody, I think.
I have this almost pathological problem with starting things before I finish the last one.
You have multiple projects that you've started on that you're jumping from?
Yes.
How many do you have going on right now?
Well, here there's everything. Well, my wife informed me that we started everything and completing nothing. So if you broke down the project into individual projects, there would be literally hundreds of them. So I don't know. I'm always hesitant to finish things because I always change my mind halfway through. And also, because we're making this without plans, I feel like I gotta have everything started so I can manipulate things back and forth. And we find all these objects and we incorporate them in. And so it's like, for me, it's like a giant chess game. I have all these knights and pawns and piles of junk, and we use this as raw material. So I've got to see something in front of me, and then if I see that and I want to contrast something off of it, I got to put that up, at least start it, so I can see the whole works. Because every day we come in, there's no plan whatsoever, which is part of the reason we call it City Museum, because it's developed like a city without a plan, so that it also developed naturally. I mean, it's developed for sometimes for no other reason that we found a neat object.
Bob's always had a close relationship with the junk and junk dealers and scavengers and anybody who can make had a bargain, Typically, we didn't have a lot of conversations about many of the things that went up before they went up, and often Bob wouldn't want to tell me what he had planned for the next day because he thought I might nix it. So often I would get there to find pallets and pallets of stuff dropped inside the building, and I typically would say, well, what's that for? And he says, well, I've got this great idea. And I'd say, well, but you said you were going to do this. And he said, but this is better, and it's here, so let's do it. And he'd always say, it's free. It's free. It doesn't, they're giving it to us. It's free. Of course, it would then take 6 months, for people's time to install these things, but for Bob, that's free. And I think primarily it was that these materials that were simply in storage, the things that were made were the quality was so outstanding, and they were such beautiful things, and we couldn't afford to go out and to buy or make anything even close to it with the kind of budget we had. So it was like, let's take these great things and let's make these work for us, and we'll wind up with something better than anybody has because of it. It's our tagline is, to give you an idea, is explore the unexpected, and it's because you don't expect all of these things together. Nobody would sit down and plan out something like City Museum to start with. It wouldn't make any sense. It only made sense because it happened that way, and we'd do one thing and one thing would lead to another, and then another person would come in and say, well, how about this, or I have this, or contact so-and-so, and it just evolved. It really is a work of art. Bob and I are both sculptors. We typically, start with nothing and we make something, and we often don't have a plan, and the work dictates itself. I think that's the beauty and the fun of anything that's process oriented. That you don't have a finished plan in your mind. The thing becomes itself, and so it literally it takes on a life of its own. And your job then is to ensure that life is being communicated properly, and that it is what it is, and that everything you then do and add on to it is integral to that life, this sort of new being that this has become. And that's what City Museum has become. It's become just a dynamic center of creativity, from the sculptures to the recycled materials to the people who have been working there. We have a lot of artists working there who are doing construction as well as artistic work. We've got a lot of students who've learned everything from running conduit to cleaning off old terracotta to just any number of things, and the staff has been a real fun part of it.
Is it done?
How's it going? Yeah, it's not done. I know everybody's watching. We have some decisions to make now. How's it going? Yeah, it's not done. Oh! Stop! It's me talking. Sounds terrible.
What?
So this is the second part. Maybe did it just say part 1 though? Yeah, because duh.
Oh, thank you. Larry said that's very cool.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
And there's more of you before. I can continue going with the video. I'm feeling like we should watch it.
Oh yeah. So if you want to keep watching, do you want them to say? Is that what you're trying to say? Okay.
Yeah. Anybody want to keep watching? I can hold it ransom.
Yeah, we're about a half hour in, but if people want to keep watching, you can put it in the comments, or we can save it for a different night. Oh, Larry says yes.
Yes, please.
Yes, do. Yep.
All right.
All right. Keep going.
Just any number of things, and the staff has been a real fun part of it.
Senior consultant with Focus St. Louis, and a member of the board of directors of the City Museum. And I am so happy to greet you this morning to the opening of this very special place. Thank you so much for coming. 1, 2, 3, go!
Charles Brennan broadcasting from St. Louis's newest. People have been talking about this museum for some time. Russ Roberts from the Management Center at Washington University told me, you just got to see this place. My wife Beth got in here somehow about 2-3 months ago. I don't know how. She was just raving about it. And I am really glad and honored right now to talk to the two creative forces who have poured their souls into this old building, which is now a beautiful museum. Bob Castley, Gail Castley, thanks for letting us invade the City Museum on KMOX Radio. Well, if you can get a little closer to that microphone, everyone on the 50,000 watt red hot KMOX can hear you. Let me ask you, number one, where the heck are we? We're behind some buildings on Washington Street,
which is basically 5 blocks from the Union Station and 6 blocks from the Convention Center.
So you're right behind some buildings on Washington.
One block past Washington, and we're between 15th and 16th Street on Lucas.
You're still working. It's a work in progress right now. But is this a science museum, an arts museum, an architecture museum, a children's museum, or Bob? Just what is this?
Yes.
It's a little bit of everything.
Well, it's one thing about this place. It's anything you want it to be. This place is like a Rorschach test. We won't say. You figure it out.
Okay, buddy. Gotta be quick. That's buffalo there, no buffalo. No, that's buffalo. Actually, this is a big-headed sucker type of buffalo. Big-headed sucker. There's stuff that's there. You get me. Woo! That's all Archival. Go to the eyes if they think it's nighttime, honestly. Look, it's bad. That's a little one, too.
pull from here. All right, here it comes. Look at your feet, Bob. Get the damn in. There you go. Are you straight up and down? All right. Hold this way now. Hold this way. Hold this way. Oh. Push back, Bob. All right. Let's wait here.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. So yeah, this is the recorder.
Is that your social distancing mask?
Yeah, this is my new social distancing mask.
It's actually from Beating Bob's.
Yeah. I think it's stuck. Arby!
Oh yeah. Just not impressed at all. Stephanie wants those masks for work. Would we agree?
Yeah, they would be perfect, huh? Well, thank you everybody for watching. Any questions? I doubt it. Nobody ever likes to ask anything. Unless if they're Cousin Tim. Thank you, Cousin Tim.
No, that's not true. We had a lot of people. We were talking to a lot of people today.
Yeah, they would be perfect, huh? Thank you everybody for watching. Any questions? I doubt it. Nobody ever likes to ask anything.
Can you put the background on the? You should put your title.
Oh.
Your intro there. There you go. Because we're fancy.
Yeah. So yeah, that was really fun.
We're really glad we can share that all with everybody. And we are planning, since somebody had mentioned putting that video like up where just on a loop where people.
Yeah, you
can
don't
see
have to
it.
listen to us.
Yeah.
Before and after.
We that is something that we're working on. Is trying to get it's part of all or during our downtime, try and get a place to display all of that, and display some of like the models and some of the early pieces from the museum. So that's definitely a project that's in the works that I am personally extremely excited about. But yeah.
Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching all this. It was great. It's been so cool being able to have the time to go through all of this old material.
Thank you to this guy, Mark Silverman, for filming. I've reached out via email a couple times, and I've looked for him a couple times on Facebook and other things, but if anybody knows where he is during this time, I'd love to talk to him. I'm terrible also at email, so I could also have missed his.
Larry says thank you for sharing.
Oh, you're welcome, Larry.
Alright. Well, we've been on air for an hour.
Yeah, this is our longest one yet.
It's the longest show we've ever done.
Yeah, and we shall leave you guys there. And even though we don't want to. Samson, what do you say?
No, hold on. Here. The obligatory second dog. Showing off for a second.
Doesn't everybody care? And once again, I'm Max Castley. This is Maria Castley.
Hello.
Say goodbye, Maria.
This is Samson Castley. Goodbye, Maria.
We think we're funny.